Well, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. I am Anah Parreli, and obviously this is my channel, and I'm passionate about crystals. Um, Wherever you are in the world, I have an Australian accent. You can use the wheel nut to speed up the video or slow it down if you're having problems understanding my English, because obviously it is a global website. I'd like to thank you before I get into it for being part of my journey today. And just a reminder that I put, well, if you're new to the channel, you won't actually know, but I do put timing chapters in the description of the video so that you can jump to and from the areas of interest for you. And this is because I know that my videos can be long, I can go down a tangent, and it just gives you an opportunity to go back and forth at your leisure. And basically, because time is a premium, manage your time effectively. Now, before I get into the content today, which is Snowflake Obsidian, an absolutely beautiful crystal, one that I've always loved, with a lot of wonderful attributes, just a reminder, I encourage and invite people to share their experiences of a crystal right at the beginning of the video, sometimes if I remember as I go through it, because really I am not the go-to all-knowing person about all crystals. I just give you the information that I've have, and you can take it on board, you can let it go. You may have different experiences, you may have heard different things, and by sharing your information we actually expand the pool of knowledge that we're putting out there. The other thing that I would ask, which it is an ask and it's not the end of the world if you don't do it, but if you find something of benefit to you as you listen to these videos or any of the videos that I put up, if you can just give us a little like, that helps to keep me motivated, to keep me doing more content. You don't have to say g'day, but I would appreciate it if you did. But anyway, onwards and upwards, let's get into the content for today. So when we talk about Snowflake Obsidian, the first thing obviously is when you look at it, that's the first giveaway that what we're talking about is something that is obsidian. Most people think of obsidian, they think of the black obsidian. And when we have Snowflake Obsidian, we've got the black obsidian with the white spotted patterning on it that does tend to look a bit like a snowflake form. We will talk more about that as we go through. I just want to acknowledge the photograph here, that because this is not my Snowflake Obsidian, but you can see here that it is a dullish type black obsidian in this image. You can see on the second tower, whether that's a tower or a point. Actually, that looks, just looking at this a bit closer, I haven't looked at it before, but it looks like it's got 4 sides to the point. So I think this is a bit of a confused generator. I'm not sure. But either way, obelisk maybe. I'd have to go and check my notes to do the defining again. But you can see on the second image, or the second tower point on the left, that there is a line through it. So you've got natural flaws throughout the obsidian as well, and it just makes it more attractive. Some people find to have the flaws in it unattractive. They think it devalues it, but from a metaphysical perspective, no, it doesn't take anything away. It just feels, I would say, as a lover of crystals, when we see it with its natural flaws, we consider it to be perfectly imperfect, if that makes sense, and just a unique beauty, and it doesn't impact on the way the crystal forms or performs, is what I mean. For people that are new to the channel, they may not be aware that although I put the Zodiac content up, I'm really not I'm not really into it as far as crystals go, is the best way to describe it, I suppose, because my belief is you're better off actually going into a shop and handling a crystal and allow yourself to be drawn to the perfect one for you, whatever its healing attributes are, and not be restricted by your star sign. When people make the Zodiac links, they're kind of just trying to let you know that if this is your star sign, you might benefit from it, because technically speaking, everybody's got vulnerabilities, but when it comes to the Zodiac and the astrology, there is that, it's a water sign, it's an earth sign, it's all of that, and that can suggest strengths and vulnerabilities, areas for improvement. So somebody along the way has decided that Snowflake Obsidian would be very good for people that are Virgo and Capricorn. I say, yeah, possibly it is actually, because they are earth signs and they can be very materialistic. you will know this, okay? They put a lot of emphasis on money. If you're a Virgo or a Capricorn, they tend to measure their self-worth by their material possessions. And if they've got nothing, they consider that they're non-achievers, which is not always the case. We don't measure our success by how much money we've got in the bank. But either way, where I'm going with this is I can actually see that snowflake obsidian might be beneficial for these earth signs because it helps to bring them into thinking a more awakened state, shall we say. I mean, it'll do it for everybody, but if they're being bogged down by the earthly and material things in life, regardless of star sign, it will help to get better balance in your energy. So moving on now, let's take a look at the chakras. So when we look at this image here, I can understand people saying, well, how does it relate to the chakras? If you're not familiar with the chakras, the base chakra, or what we call the root chakra, is often represented by the colour black, and the crown chakra is often represented as the lilac lavender type colour or the colour white. Okay, so this is why it's actually recommended by people as the base and crown. I actually believe it will also connect a person through to the Earth Star chakra because it connects to some of those earth-based qualities, and it's about centering and grounding. So not only will it work with the base and the crown, we're looking at the Earth Star and everything that goes in between, because when we're centered and grounded, we're actually running energy through each one of the chakras. So I would say all, but of course you may have a different opinion, and I invite you to share it. When we're talking about the mineral properties of snowflake obsidian, I have to do that disclaimer right from the get-go, which is I'm not a geologist or any form of rock specialist. I am an appreciator of crystals, and through interacting with people that are into it as well, and doing a bit of research, I managed to get a bit of information that I'm sharing with you. It may or may not be correct, and I invite you obviously to share your opinions, to correct me if I'm wrong, or even to go and do your own research on it. What I do know, though, and I'm quite comfortable to share, is that any form of obsidian is actually a volcanic rock. And it doesn't have to be an active volcano. It's found around volcanic eruptions because the obsidian or the lava, and it all gets a bit technical for me to try and explain, but it is molten lava that has formed into a type of glass. And when it comes to snowflake obsidian, of course, it is the black with the white spots. Those spots can actually go towards a bit of a grey colour as well. Because it's glassy, it can be quite a dense colour, as in it's not fully transparent. So it can be opaque, as in when you hold it up to the light, no sunlight comes through it, but other times it can be a little bit more translucent. From a hardness perspective, it sits at about 5 to 6, so it's got a relative amount of durability. When we say glass, it's not necessarily going to break if you drop it on tiles, but you wouldn't want to do that too many times. As far as I know, there is no toxicity associated with obsidian and even snowflake obsidian. And as far as locations go, what I found was Iceland, Mexico, and the United States. Of course, there's probably a lot more areas that I don't know about. So please do feel free to add any of those locations that you're aware of. The reason why I think this kind of information is important for us metaphysical buyers is because it helps us to some extent to be more conscientious when we're buying our product, and to be able to determine when we're being ripped off, if we've been sold a fake as opposed to the real or legit. And I mean, that can be very difficult at the best of times. So the more information we have, the better it is for us. We will be talking about the attributes in more detail further down in the video, but for now, from an overview perspective, snowflake obsidian is believed to be a stone of purity, and this is because it purifies the energy around a person. It's supposed to balance the masculine and feminine energies within us and within our auric space. And so that, of course, is called the yin yang as well. Other attributes include raising the consciousness, awareness, expanding that. But the one that I really like is if you're looking to purify your intention, or your brain is overloaded and overwhelmed by negative chatter, excuse me while I cough, it's supposed to help purify and clear all of that away. It's another attribute is aligning with divine will. That is the releasing resistance to change and learning to go with the flow. Where your chakras are concerned, yes, it's said to balance and align all of them along the spine. When I say all of them, most people aren't aware there's a lot more than the ones that I showed you in my image, but they're considered to be the primary chakras. So it aligns those primary chakras. It's certainly one for grounding and centering. And one of the things that just came to me intuitively for some reason, I thought, look, it's associated with the moon. For some reason, I feel it's associated with the moon, which is about intuition. It's about cycles, the tides, the menstrual cycle, women's cycles, and general life cycles in perspective. Yeah, all of them really. So, when it comes to the buying tips, of course, the first thing is, and I'll start with this so I can get into what I consider to be the interesting stuff. Yes, it can be faked, but when you're buying any crystal, the first thing that you need to know is, especially if you're buying it online, what is it? As far as, do you know what you're buying? First thing, how to tell the difference between the fake and the real. Once you do, you've got a better chance. How tall is it? How wide is it? How deep is it? Is it a slice? Is it a chunk? Is it natural product? Or is it carved and polished? You want to know the dimensions and you want to know the weight, because that is going to give you a bit of an idea. Plastic is lighter than any rock. Okay, so if it's a big piece and it looks lightweight, you know that there's something not quite kosher there with most of them. Then you want to know the currency. If you're buying from overseas and bringing it into your home country, by the time you do your currency conversions and look at your freight costs, if you're buying off one of the online platforms and all the rest of it, there can often be hidden fees put in there, particularly when it comes to the freight. So you want to make sure you've looked at the sums properly before you actually go ahead and purchase. Now, the other thing too is, because I try and search images for my videos, I have included this image on the right here, simply because I actually am not sure if that's a fake. Now, if I was going to be buying that, I would be saying, listen, I want all this information that I've just asked or mentioned to you guys now. I want to know the details of it, and I want a close-up of those snowflake spots on that little, it's supposed to be a dragon, it looks a bit like a wolf to me, but I want to see those spots up close, because to me they look like dots. It doesn't look right, and you can see when you have the other two images, you can see how tight those snowflakes run together, whereas the image on the right, maybe you do get snowflake obsidian with just the occasional spot, but I'm not really sure. So yeah, I would want to have a closer look at it, and I would not want to be paying a lot of money for it. Sometimes I do buy things that I think might be fake, simply because I think, well, maybe it's just poor quality, and so I don't pay a lot of money for that stuff. I just want to have a look at it, and then if I'm ripped off, then I know, as you do. And sometimes I get a surprise. Sometimes I find out it actually is the genuine article, and I'll go back and I'll buy more of them. If you're ever in doubt, anyway, go and see a specialist. So the tips with buying it, snowflake obsidian, it should actually feel smooth when you're touching it. I mean, that's going to vary if you're buying it in the natural form. It's going to be a little bit rough, but it will still have a smoothness to it. And the flowers, right? I've got a couple of different images up here. So you can see they do vary a little bit, but there is a consistency about them. They will potentially have some grey to them, and they should look organic. If they're perfect dots all over, then that's going to be fake. My gut instinct is it's going to be fake. I don't think I can add anything else to that. I welcome your input here. So when we talk about the spiritual attributes, obviously I've touched on the aura and chakra purification and alignment already, but there is also that aspect of protecting and shielding the aura and creating a balance within the aura as well, because obviously the aura is made up of layers. It is also, as I mentioned, part of this purification of intention, and this is about responsible use of energy, gifts, and trying to find your divine pathway, your life pathway. So it's going to assist in that process by, letting go of the ego and aligning with divine will. Sorry, as I swallow, I just ate a lolly. That's all I can say. Anyway, going back to it, It's supposed to support manifestation through the being able to hold the vision, that commitment to seeing the goal through to fruition, whatever it is you're trying to manifest. If you're looking to be able to do work with healing energy, to deliver healing to other people or do healing treatments, certainly it would be recommended for that, because this is when you do that kind of work, you've actually got to center and ground before you actually bring the energy in and then send it out via yourself, obviously, drawing upon divine energy. Got to be clear here. It's believed to open the access to the higher realms, to be able to communicate and download information from your guides, universal wisdom, expand your sense of universal knowledge, connect to your higher self, and to be able to express the best version of yourself as well. So it's a crystal of spiritual growth. It is associated with a spiritual awakening. You would use it if you were wanting to develop energy awareness. Sometimes, to explain this to people, will go along for a healing treatment, and initially when people are exposed to energy, they might come back and say, I didn't feel anything. I felt better inside, but no, I didn't feel anything in my body or whatever. But then after a while, the more treatments they have, they start to think, oh, I can feel the heat coming through the person's hands, or I can feel these energy sensations. So that's what we're talking about with feelings, okay? And being energy aware and energy sensitive. So it is considered to be a crystal of shadow work and revelations, in that it supports discernment, which is not judgment. Okay, discernment is about knowing what is healthy for us and what isn't. And when we talk about hidden truth, that can be the stuff that we're actually denying and suppressing as well. But it brings the truth to the surface because we can work with what we know. But what we don't know, we tend to keep repeating if it's negative patterns. So it's also believed to enhance your intuition. If you're looking to develop animal communication and telepathy, spirit communication, of course, yes, you could use snowflake obsidian for that as well. The other interesting factor is, of course, within the workplace, the ambient energy. If you've got a lot of tension in the workplace, if there's some stagnation happening, potentially, some workplaces just become very unpleasant. You could place a little bit in your workplace for clearing away any negative undercurrents, to lighten and brighten the atmosphere, shall we say. So here's the thing. When it comes to the physical attributes, we must remember that there is no evidence to support that crystals will heal or cure certain conditions. There will be no harm in using them as a complement to your current therapies or whatever. And before I talk about these physical attributes, I think something that I haven't said on previous videos that I've done a lot of them now, is that when we research online and we look for a crystal that will heal a certain condition, that may or may not be based on somebody's experience. It could be that somebody somewhere once upon a time has attempted to download intuitive knowledge and information and come up with, well, I've looked at this crystal and it's going to work for people with skeletal problems or something like that, but no actual it won't be evidence-based anyway, but not even what they would call empirical wisdom, which is knowing a person with skeletal problems that has used a crystal and managed to get benefit from it. So I do like to play the skeptic here, as well as saying, you've got nothing to lose. This is the approach that I take. If you've got certain health conditions, you've got nothing to lose by using a crystal as a complement, because it's not going to do any harm. If you stop doing your treatments, then you may get harm. So with that in mind, I'm going to say to you now, this is the information that I have received through either research or talking to other people about how snowflake obsidian can benefit the human body and any physical health conditions. And because it is a stone of purity and connection, it's believed to support blood health and the organs, because it's believed to offer detoxification, which is that purification. Because it's got the black and the white and it works with the base and the crown, you're also talking about brain balance of the left and right hemispheres. So, and even probably if people have got frontal lobe injuries, they might be able to benefit from it. It's recommended for people with addiction and behavioural disorders, or who struggle to process their emotions, because a lot of the time this is about neural patterns, and so it's supposed to support creating healthy new ways and approaches to dealing with these types of problems. It's also said to offer pain relief, to strengthen the skeletal system, the bones, and what other things have we got? I suppose even the jaw and teeth, really. With the digestive system, it's supposed to purify that and strengthen the system to be able to cope with any digestive disorders, and that could include waste elimination. I would say it definitely does if we're looking at the crystal from the perspective that it's got a base chakra function, and because it's about detoxification. Going back to blood for a moment, it's supposed to help strengthen the veins and to create healthy blood flow. So if you've got problems with your menstrual cycles, ladies, it's supposed to work for that. Now, male or female, it's supposed to support good genital health. Okay, so that's all I can add to that. You might have some more thoughts. So when it comes to the emotional and mind benefits, the thinking thoughts and that kind of stuff, I've already mentioned purification. I'm not going to go too much into this slide because you can just read the points yourself. But when we're talking about shadow work, it's believed to be a tool for doing the shadow work. And this is that bringing the subconscious thoughts, the cause of disease or whatever, all those maladaptive thinking processes that keep us locked in repeating negative cycles. It's supposed to help bring them to the surface so that we can do that repatterning. Because when you're repatterning, it doesn't just happen by itself. You've got to take actions to create those new patterns. So it's emotional and physical at the same time. So it's supposed to help transform blocks by shifting through it. Obviously, gratitude and appreciation as you see the life changes occurring. But what I want to, I guess, in a summary of the emotional benefits is it's probably recommended for those people that have hit rock bottom and bottomed out, at least for them. Other people who may suffer some of the mini ups and downs through life and struggle to keep that momentum and that kind of thing. If you're feeling a bit down, this would be the crystal for you. If you suffer from got to be careful with the words that we use, because it is YouTube, but there are issues around when people might hurt themselves, and they might hurt themselves seriously and permanently. It would be recommended for those people to help them process their emotions, unpack them, and recognize what's going on internally so that they can actually work with it and let it go. And so it is considered to be an empowerment crystal. A lot of the time people feel victimized either by other people or just through life in general because of these repeating patterns. So it is about shifting away from those patterns and just going forward in your life in positive ways. If you've got questions or thoughts, I've actually got other videos up on how to do that as part of my social work degree. The way you use your crystal is going to be determined by what attributes you're trying to use it for. So if you're looking to ground and center, you might want to be wearing it as a pendant perhaps, or a tumble stone on a macrame setting or whatever, as part of reminding you to remain centered and grounded. You could also put it under your pillow. That's always going to be helpful. If you're wanting to use it for protection, one of the ways that not actually snowflake obsidian, I've done it with black obsidian, is actually to wear a bracelet on each wrist as part of that shielding and protection for when I'm delivering services. Obviously, it's a wonderful jewelry item. If you're a crystal therapist, then yes, it could certainly be part of your gridding routine, and you could place it at the crown or at the base, or put one at each end, really, I would imagine. Very good for holding in meditation. You could use a sphere for that. You could use the palm stone. You could use a tumble, any number of things. And of course, there are carvings of snowflake obsidian that you could place in your environment. to send out that ambient energy. You know, when writing up the transcript for this particular video on this crystal, I put up basically a message of purity of intent, the focus on that, and purifying your intention of what it is that you would like to occur or to drive your actions, basically, because I do believe there is a truth in that saying, you know, with the best of intentions, the paths to hell are created, because quite often some of the worst things happen because people can justify that, well, I thought it was the right thing to do at the time, but now in hindsight I see it wasn't a good thing, you know. So that's the kind of stuff that happens when we're operating from a space of listening to the mind chatter instead of listening to the heart and allowing ourselves to be driven, shall we say, in a positive, loving direction. That was kind of the first part of the message. And then I sort of, as I've come to this slide now, I'm going to leave it as, no, I think this one is center and ground. Get some balance, because if you are living in that space of being centered and grounded, you will be allowing yourself to instinctually follow your path, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. So there becomes that remain centered and grounded with the purity of intent. If you think that you're not able to do it, then you just keep reiterating it to the universe, you know. I purify my intent. My intention is to align my will with divine will, things like that. And I'm open to have a discussion about that if you want to ask some questions and then respond to that potentially even on this Sunday's yarning. But moving along, I'm trying to keep this video brief today. Snowflake obsidian, as we mentioned on the mineral slide, it's fairly durable because it's, you know, that 5 to 6 hardness. So it can take a few knocks, and because it's got the glassy, it's not porous or anything like that. It's probably perfectly suitable for washing in a stream if that's what you're into. You know, if it's just a tumble, for me, I would have no issue with just wiping it with a damp cloth. If it's a carving, depending on how intricate the carvings are, the ornaments, you might get a bit of dust congesting, and if it's a setting, jewelry setting, you can get the grime. I don't think, and I'm once again open to correction, that there would be a problem putting it in the tepid, lukewarm, mild organic soapy water to loosen any grime off a pendant setting, and then use a soft toothbrush and then rinsing it off in tepid or lukewarm water again and drying it with a soft cloth. I think it would certainly cope with that. As always, I don't recommend the ultrasonic cleaners because I've heard stories, and I'm not a geo or a lapidurist or anything like that, so it's outside of my area of expertise. I just say use at your own risk. I can't think of anything else there for just general cleaning, but when it comes to the metaphysical and energy cleaning, I've got a separate video addressing that. I've got a link in the description. My fallback option, as most people know, is actually selenite. Love selenite. In fact, actually for snowflake obsidian, I think selenite is probably a great option. What you wouldn't want to do though is put your polished selenite on top of non-polished or unpolished. What did I say? You would not want to put your polished snowflake obsidian on the unpolished selenite, because the selenite is harder and it may scratch it. So you'd want to be a bit careful. Having said that, if you've got the polished selenite, that will be fine. Other thing too is if you're going to use your amethyst cave or anything like that, just remember, look, amethyst should be fine with snowflake obsidian because it's actually harder than snowflake obsidian. But what I found is by using my amethyst cave a lot, too much for clearing crystals, some of the points started to break off after a period of time. So it's not my preferred method. Of course, you can use incense, you can use candles, all of that kind of stuff. Please feel free to let me know what you do and let others know. And of course, when it comes to charging, I don't put a lot of mine out under the full moon or things like that, but for some reason, when it comes to snowflake obsidian, this would be one of those ones. I think because I feel it's connected to the moon and the intuitive aspects, and so I actually would feel drawn to put this out under the moonlight every now and again. And I feel certainly when there's rain happening as well, I think that would be lovely. Let us know what you do. So, my friends, that's about all I can give you for today. I look forward to your
I want to say
responses. I'll
thank
be
you for
sure
being
to
part
read
of
them
my
all.
journey, and
If I see you
sincerely
make a comment,
apologise
I
for
will
being
comment
late with
back,
loading
even
this
if to
video.
say that I will
I've had to
expand
stop and
on
start a couple of times.
their
Obviously,
comment
like
on
I
the
said
Sunday
earlier, I
yarning.
have
For now, though,
moments of
I'd like to say,
wellness at
look,
the moment,
thank you for
so I
being
just
part of
try
my
and work
journey. Love
within
you,
that.
leave you. Have a blessed
In the
day.
meantime,
Take
I'm
care.
going to say,
Catch you on the
look,
next
love
one.
you, leave you.
Bye-bye for now.
Have a wonderful day.
So, my
Take
friends,
care of
that's about
yourselves.
all I can give you
Stay
for
blessed,
today. I
and
look
I'll
forward
catch
to
you on
your
the next
responses. I'll be
video.
sure to read
Bye-bye
them
for
all.
now.
If I see